Hello, so I did the introduction video earlier about just kind of what I was going to do and about the channel. Now I wanted to do a video about the PlayStation 5 reveal that's happening next week on June 4th and just kind of what I expect and what I'm hoping for, sort of thing. I feel like Sony's in a situation where because of their first party, that they're actually I think, in a situation where they're going to have a better launch lineup than you usually see from consoles. A lot of times when new consoles come out, you don't have a lot of good big games right away. It usually takes a couple of years or a year and a half or so before you really start seeing big games. A lot of times you'll come out with new consoles and you'll have maybe one big launch game and then a lot of other more cross-gen, multi-platform type of games. And multi-platform games are also important though, because multi-platform games kind of help when you have those droughts where you don't really have a lot of big exclusives. But I feel like exclusives is kind of the deciding factor of why you buy one console over the other, because otherwise they're pretty much the same. But yeah, I feel like somebody's in a situation where they have an opportunity to have a better launch lineup than a lot of people are giving them credit for or anticipating, sort of thing. And I just kind of wanted to break down what I expect from this event. And some of these things, it's tough to say because I think some of these things could also be announced later in the year. The reason I say that is that there's a lot of rumors. I don't always believe rumors and stuff. A lot of them are wrong, but there's rumors that we could get another sort of PlayStation 5 reveal type thing, or a state of play or something for PlayStation 5 in August, which I think could happen. I feel like we could see, that'd be, I think that could happen because if you look at Sony right now, they're going to be doing this PlayStation 5 reveal, and it's been a little bit since Xbox kind of did their first third party, thing for Xbox, and so I feel like Sony, now is doing this, and then Xbox in July is going to be doing their first party things, and so I feel like Sony could maybe kind of respond to that in August, kind of like how this is, you could say it's kind of like a response to what Microsoft did in May, but I think it was early May. But yeah, I want to break down some of the stuff. I feel like some of it, like I said, could be, part of it could be next week, and some of it could end up getting pushed to August. But even still, I just kind of wanted to break down my general thoughts going forward here. So I'm going to start with my first party predictions. So I feel like we're going to get a Demon Souls remake. There's been a lot of rumors about a Demon Souls remake, but but I believe by Bluepoint. Bluepoint is really known for doing remasters and doing them really well. They did the Shadow Colossus remake. I'm not sure all the other remakes they've done, but I feel like Demon Souls remake is something that could very well happen. There's been a lot of speculation for a while now about what Bluepoint's been up to, and I feel like that'll be a launch game. The second game I feel like is Ratchet and Clank. Like I mentioned in the first video, I'm a big Ratchet and Clank fan. Insomniac, the last Ratchet and Clank game was 2016, and it was basically a reimaginary of the first game. It wasn't quite a remake, not quite a remaster, in that it had some of the same dungeons, or not dungeons, had some of the same planets and weapons that the first game had, but it had some differences in the story and stuff, and kind of based off the movie. I feel like we're going to get a new Ratchet and Clank because of the fact that Insomniac is pretty good when it comes to making games fast, and the fact that we didn't have nearly as many Sony, or the fact that we didn't have near as many Ratchet and Clank games last generation, which you could say is maybe a good thing because I love Ratchet and Clank, but at the same time, you could say that with all the games they were doing, that maybe they were, starting to kind of rush Ratchet and Clank games out a little too frequently, to the point where, kind of like a Call of Duty or something, where it became a little too often that the games came out. And, the fact that PS4 only had one, I think will maybe kind of rejuvenate the franchise, give it more time. But yeah, I think we'll get a new Ratchet and Clank, and I'm going to say that it's going to be not another reimaginary. There's been rumors about it being a reimaginary of Going Commando, which is currently my second favorite Ratchet and Clank behind Crack in Time. But I think that rather than that, I think it's going to be something that will be completely like new. I don't know if it'll take place, after Kraken time, kind of going back towards the future timeline or what, but I feel like it will be something that's actually completely like new, not really a remake or whatever. And I think you're going to see a big increase in new weapons because I remember with the 2016 game, one of the things that people complain about, despite the fact that it got good reviews overall, was that it didn't have a lot of new weapons. And I think Insomniac's going to take that to heart and have a game that has a lot more fresh new weapons, and it'll be interesting to see how the SSD works in terms of traveling and between plants and load times and such. The third game I have is Gran Turismo. I've never actually played any of the Gran Turismo games myself, believe it or not. I'm not huge into racing games normally, but I know Gran Turismo has a pretty big following, and racing games typically um, have uh, pretty good showcase for the next generation of graphics that the games tend to have. And yeah, there's been a lot of rumors about Gran Turismo 7, and the last Gran Turismo Sport, I have heard a lot of kind of negativity against it. It kind of seems like it's almost like Drive Club in that over time it got better and there was a lot of updates and they supported the game well, but it got off to kind of a rocky start, and its sales numbers were not good by Gran Turismo standards, even though they were still good overall. But yeah, I think Gran Turismo 7 will be a launch game as well. And I forgot to mention previously, I think Ratchet and Clank will also be a launch game. So those first three games are launch games, I believe. Horizon Zero Dawn 2, I believe, will be a early 2021 game. Um, you know, Guerrilla Games, they haven't really said anything since the first Horizon came out in early 2017. By the time PlayStation 5 comes out, the first game will have been 3 years and 8 months, 9 months or so since it came out. I feel like it's a good amount of time to um, make the sequel, and it seems like a lot of people are saying that, but at the same time, it seems like a lot of people think that it might not be till late 2021 or 2022 even or something. But yeah, I'm pretty confident that it'll be an early 2021 game. And I actually at one point thought maybe Horizon would be a launch game, but I'm gonna say it ends up being a 2021 game to kind of space it out a little bit more from like Demon Souls and Gran Turismo and stuff, as well as the fact that I think with the virus that's probably had a slight delay on its timetable. So I think it will be a early 2021 game, right around the time that of February, March, something like that, when it'll be 4 years since the first game came out. And I think it's going to be kind of the big showcase that we see during this. What I mean by that is I think it's going to be the game that kind of creates the most hype during the PlayStation 5 reveal because of how good the first one was, and it's gonna be interesting to see what they do going forward with the second game. The DLC on the first game was amazing too, and it'll be interesting in the second game to see do they add more aquatic creatures to the game or something. The first game, the only kind of water creature you had was the one that was based off of crocodile, Snapjaw or something. Don't quite remember what it was called, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like, could they add shark creatures or octopuses or something like that? That's kind of an idea I've thought of. Just kind of give more variety to the different types of animals, creatures that you have. The first game had quite a few different creatures, and I'm expecting to have obviously some new ones, and I think some of the previous ones could very well return because I think it's important to strike a balance to bring back some of the ones, especially some of the ones that maybe people really liked and that just stood out more and that were really cool in terms of design. So I think that's very important thing. Then I have the Silent Hill. I think it'll be a middle 2021 game. This one I feel the least confident when it comes to trying to give it some sort of date, but there's been a lot of rumors about a Silent Hill game being made exclusively for PlayStation 5. And even though I don't like to believe rumors, I feel like there's been enough that this will indeed be the case. Even though, again, I don't know if it'll be, when it will really be. I'm just kind of throwing a date out there saying middle 2021. Never played the Silent Hill games. I'm not big into horror games. I get scared too easily, personally. But I know Silent Hill is pretty popular. Then my last prediction, and I think this will be kind of the thing that we see perhaps at the very end of the hour long or so PlayStation 5 reveal show, but I think we'll see something with Spider Man 2. Um, we're getting close to 2 years, or it'll be 2 years in September since the first Spider Man game. I don't think it'll be a launch game at all. I think that's too soon, just over 2 years. But I do think there's a good chance, like some of the rumors, that it could be a 2021 game. And it's not necessarily that I believe that the rumors have credibility. It's just I think when you look at Insomniac and how they work and stuff, I feel like 3 years in general for a Spider-Man sequel is enough time when you can build off the first one with its city and maybe just kind of make things a little bit bigger. And the fact that I feel like it was a really good foundation to build off of, and the fact that Insomniac seems to be a pretty fast working company, I think we could see Spider-Man as a late 2021 game, like holiday 2021. And if that's the case, I think we will see something here at PlayStation 5 reveal, even if it's just a small little teaser and not a full on gameplay video. I know there's been a lot of talk about PlayStation and them wanting to show gameplay, especially because of the way that Microsoft's third party kind of conference thing went or whatever, or reveal went, where it was a lot of CGI related stuff or cinematics or whatever, and not so much gameplay. And I understand that, and I do think that because of that, we'll see a lot more gameplay and stuff. But I think that you can easily have a balance. I think, especially going in a new gen, you want to sell people not just on launch games, but also I think on the stuff that's pretty soon. And when I think of pretty soon, I think of stuff it's kind of middle to early to middle 2021. Being that that's only be a few months to 9 months or whatever after the console comes out. That I think you can easily have a combination of stuff where you maybe show some stuff with gameplay that's this year and that's early next year, and then you could have some stuff where maybe you show like a teaser or something for stuff that's 2021 or even 2022. I think as long as you have a balance. Now, if you showed like everything with just a small teaser and no gameplay, then I think that would be an issue. But if you have a couple games, for with gameplay and like a couple that are more just teased or whatever, I think that would be fine. But yeah, I think we'll see something with Spider-Man, even if it's just like a short teaser. Maybe just something simple like showing one of the villains or something, and Spider-Man jumping in, swinging in, or something. I'm not really sure, but I think we will see something. Okay, then so that's my first party. Then I'm gonna go to the third party here. Third party, I feel like it's a little harder to predict. You know, because I just don't know the time period on things and such as much. But and just want to say with the first party too, and why I feel like they're in better shape than normal going into a gen to have a good opening launch lineup or early and as well as like games in the first year or so. It's just kind of like even going into Insomniac and Guerrilla Games is Insomniac. Like I said, they're pretty fast, and the fact that it's been a while now since Ratchet and Clank, and they have two teams, so you can have one team work on Ratchet and Clank, the other team work on Spider-Man. And with as long as it's been since that last Ratchet and Clank, I feel like they're, like I said, in good shape to do that. And so the fact that I think you could see Insomniac easily have two games in the first yearish or so, and then the fact that Guerrilla Games, because of how long it's been since their last game, I think, like I said, you could have them with the Horizon. They also have two teams, so they could also be working on a new IP or another Killzone or something. I'm personally not interested in Killzone. Just don't care for first-person shooters at all. But I know some people do. Like Killzone, and first-person shooters are obviously pretty popular. But yeah, if you have, Horizon, Spider-Man, and a Ratchet and Clank all within the first year or so, I think that's already a better sort of exclusive lineup than you typically see from consoles in the first year or so. And that doesn't even include, potential other smaller, games and such, or, Gran Turismo or whatever. So that's part of why I feel like they're in better shape. Then you get to the third party. Like I was going to say, third party, I feel like the new Batman game will finally be shown and announced, and I think it will be a launch game. I could also see this being a late 2021 game. It's hard to say. This one I just put as launch because I really don't know what to expect from the Batman Arkham game. And I'm a huge Batman Arkham fan. the four Arkham games, if you include the Origins ones that wasn't by Rocksteady, that was by Warner Brothers Montreal, who's also supposed to be taken over now. That Rocksteady's supposed to be done with their with the Batman games. But yeah, if you take all four, I'd say all four of them for me personally are top like 25 or so games of all time. Arkham, Asylum, City, and Night in particular, I'd say all three of those are in like the top, or not Asylum. If you look at Asylum's probably about top 25 for me, but City, Origins, and Night are personally, those three are all like in the around the top 10 for me of all time favorite games. And maybe I'll do a video on top favorite games of all time too at some point. But yeah, that's a big franchise for me. But in terms of the next Arkham game, I don't really know what to expect. There's been so many rumors for such a long time to the point where I'm starting to feel like it'll never be announced and like it's just not true. Even though at the same time, usually when you see a lot of rumors, you gotta think there's something behind it. But it's just been so long without anything. It's one of those I'll believe it when I see it sort of things. And just frustration because I feel like their marketing has been horrible. They had to, they teased pretty hard late last year, at the point where you would think that they were gonna announce the Arkham game pretty soon. Which you would have had an announcement back in like December at the Video Game Awards or something, and yet it didn't happen. And then there's been a few other times where they haven't announced it when you thought they might, even this year. And there's still a few chances. You could see it perhaps at the Microsoft conference, the Sony conference. You could see it at if Warner Brothers does something during the Summer Game Fest that's going on. That's kind of replacing E3 right now. But Warner Brothers hasn't announced that they're going to do anything. I would be surprised if they did, but they haven't yet. And then there's also the Summer Game Fest that IGN scheduled. They released where during June there's going to be something like 7 games announced by them in a matter of like 20 days, and we haven't had any sort of info about out of those 7 games, like which companies and studios and stuff those belong to. So we don't know if any of those games are going to be first party or third party or second party or indie games, or if they're going to be from Warner Brothers or Rocksteady or whatever. We haven't got any of that information, but I'm going to say that they announce it with the Sony, because it seems like the Batman Arkham games have kind of been a big thing for Sony, even though it's not an exclusive game. It seems like they've gone special DLC early with Sony, or been announced first by Sony or something. And so it seems like they have some sort of mini deal in that regard. So I'm going to say they announced it there, and then it ends up being a launch game. Hard to go into too more detail on that one. Then I'm going to say Crash Bandicoot 2021, not really giving it a particular time in terms of early, middle, late. I'm just gonna say 2021. But yeah, Crash Bandicoot I think will get a new game. There's been rumors on that too, and it's not just that there's been rumors on that, but the fact that the Crash Bandicoot remake from a few years ago did very well. It sold very well. It looked really good. I had never played the Crash Bandicoot games since I didn't have a PlayStation 1 or 2. But until that remaster, and I got the remaster and ended up playing it, or the remake, I meant, not remaster, the remake. Ended up playing it, liked it a lot. I've always liked platforming games a lot, and so that was part of why I got it, even though I hadn't played it. I was like, I've heard about this, it's a platformer, let's try it kind of thing. And I think it was like, when it came out, I think it was something like $50 for the 3 games or something, which, really, really good. To get 3 games made from the ground up and not have to pay, like a normal game price, or even close to a normal game price for each one or something. Because like if that was Nintendo, as much as like Nintendo, that would be like $180. But yeah, I think the Crash game, because of the success of the remake and the rumors and everything, and how it seems like platformers are somewhat making a comeback. Not that they completely died, but still, I think that will definitely be shown by Activision. And it'll be interesting to see, what it looks like and stuff. Then I'm going to go Ghostwire Tokyo 2022. I think this will be one of the games that we see that's the furthest off. I believe it was first announced last year at E3 during, I believe, I forget if it's Bethesda or Ubisoft or what. You can put it in the comments below if you remember what company did Ghostwire Tokyo, but or what company is doing it. But yeah, it was a game that was shown um, during E3 last year and got a trailer that really just kind of it looked interesting, but it didn't really show any gameplay, and it kind of just brought up questions about what exactly is this game about and stuff. It looked almost like the rapture happening or something. People disappearing, the clothes being left behind. But yeah, it just looked different and interesting to the point where when I saw it, it was kind of caught my eye, and it was like, it'd be interesting to see what else is shown and what this game is exactly once we get more detail. And it's been almost a year, and we haven't really had any sort of updates on the game. And so I'm gonna just throw it out there that we get some sort of update on this game. Maybe it's seeing the first gameplay, even though I'm saying it's a while off, or maybe it's another trailer, but a trailer that gives you a little more idea of what the game is like. So even if it's not like a traditional like you're actually watching a gameplay video per se, it could be kind of a mixture type of trailer, like you see with a lot of games when they're getting closer to release or whatever, or even sometimes when they're far off, where you see some story, but you also see a little bit of what's happening in the game in terms of the gameplay. Kind of a mix, so you have a little bit of an idea, but it's not the same as watching something like, say, Ghost of Tsushima state of play that we had recently, where it was just like 20 minutes strictly of gameplay and them talking about the features. So it could be a little bit different than that, but still gives you some sort of idea. And then the last one I had is Call of Duty. Never, like I said, I'm not big into first-person shooters, and I feel like Call of Duty, being that it's pretty much a yearly franchise and has been for a while, I don't even remember how many Call of Duties there are, and I don't really have interest in it. But I know they have a big following, and I think it will be shown during this. Call of Duty, it seems like, has become something where it seems like almost every year, no matter if you're in the middle of a console generation, the beginning, the late part, whatever, it seems like it's shown during the Sony and Microsoft conferences and stuff. So I just don't really see that changing going forward, sort of thing. And then, that would be 10 games if that happens. That, like I said, that would be about 10 games shown. I believe when we had the PlayStation 4 reveal back in February 2013, I believe there was about 10 games shown for that. So I think around 10 games shown for this would be a pretty good amount. Obviously, things are different with the virus, and just Sony's been kind of weird with the way they market things, because we got the first info about PlayStation 5 like further in advance than we did for PlayStation 4. PlayStation 5, when they first did the Wire article, that was like April 2019. So you're talking about that was 18 months or so before the console's coming out. If the console comes out in October or whatever. PlayStation 4, on the other hand, didn't have or got its first info of some sort in the reveal in February of 2013. So you were talking about only 8 months or so, 9 months or so. So you're talking about like 9 month difference or so in terms of when we got the first info. So I think that's part of why it's been frustrating with Sony in terms of the way the info's, because they released that first info further in advance compared to PlayStation 4. I think that kind of gave people impression, including me, that we would get info sooner than we have, especially when it comes to the big info such as games, price, the systems, look, and stuff, because games is always the reason you buy something in the first place. You know, um, the other then I just have a few other little thoughts here, which is, Rocksteady. I'm kind of wondering if we'll see them. I'm not gonna say that we are, but it's one of those I kind of wonder about, because Rocksteady, after Batman Arkham Knight, which was 2015, I believe, they said they were done with the Batman Arkham games. They did do a Batman Arkham VR game, but that was still a while ago, and so they haven't really done like a normal game, since the Batman Arkham games. And there's been a few rumors about what they're doing, such as a Superman game, and I think a Justice League game, and it might have been a few others, but no official infos came out. We haven't heard, yes they're doing this or yes they're doing that or whatever. We haven't seen, anything that's even considered really a tease in terms of what they're doing. So I kind of feel like they could almost be doing anything, but because of how successful and good the Rocksteady Batman Arkham franchise was, I'm just really interested to see what they're doing, no matter if it is, another DC related character such as the Flash or Superman. Although I don't think Superman's gonna happen. They've already denied that several times, and there's already been some leaks or something that they at one point were going to maybe do a Superman game that they were denied by Warner Brothers to do it or something. So I don't think it's gonna be a Superman game, but it could still be a Justice League game or Flash game or something maybe that's not even DC related or not even superhero related. There's really no way to know. But the fact that it's been, I don't know, 5 years or so since the last game came out, we haven't had any update. I gotta think they've been working hard, and though I've been saying for a while now, probably a year or so, that because they hadn't announced anything and how long it had been, I kind of felt like whatever they were working on had to have been, a next gen game, which because of that, I felt like, until we get more concrete news on the next consoles, that we would not see whatever they're working on. But now that we're getting to that point, I could see them maybe showing up during that sort of thing. But, who knows? But yeah, these are basically my predictions. The other little notes that I have is I don't think we'll see the console itself or the actual price. I think they're going to save that till like August or so. Um, it's tough to say. A lot of people don't think they're going to show the console. I don't think they will personally either. But at the same time, there is speculation now because of the fact that they're starting to actually build the consoles in the factories. That if Sony doesn't simply show the console soon, that some photos might leak, and I think Sony would rather excuse me. I think Sony would rather, be the ones to break the news and show what the system looks like rather than having some photos, maybe even some sort of blurry photos come out. I think Sony would like to kind of control that narrative of what the system looks like. So it's hard to say, but I'm gonna say that that they don't show it until August, and it seems like them and Microsoft are kind of fighting over the price, and so I don't think Sony's gonna announce the price till August either. Price is important, but I also feel like because of Sony's um, popularity when it comes to consoles, I feel like they could have a more expensive console and still basically destroy Microsoft when it comes to sales. The Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 gen was, I think, the best example that Xbox will never outsell Sony no matter what. Basically, everything went wrong that gen for Sony, and they still slightly outsold Microsoft that gen, to the point where I'd say basically their beginning and mistakes and stuff were just as bad as Xbox this gen. And Xbox does the like that sort of thing, and they get outsold like 2.5 to 1 or whatever. Where Microsoft or Sony, when they are at like their worst, you could say, even though I personally love the PS3, but they still outsold them a little bit. So I mean, if Sony can mess up that much and they still outsell them, then I just don't see any sort of way that Xbox has a chance to even be close to them. I feel like Nintendo is actually the bigger competitor for Sony. I know Nintendo's kind of got a different audience and stuff, but at the same time, they're all video game companies, so there's all sort of competing against each other in a sense because there's only so much time and money that people have to spend on video games, and so there's always it's the same with like movies. Yeah, you have different target audiences for movies, but at the end of the day, a movie's a movie, and you only have so much money or time or whatever to go to the theater or buy a DVD or watch them or whatever. And so it's always some sort of competition. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see just how things go with if we get the price or not. But yeah, I don't think we'll get the price until later. I'm gonna say the price I think will be 450 personally. I know there's been a lot of talk about 400 or 500. I've heard some people say that 450 is kind of an odd number, but I could still see Sony going with the 450 price. Before the console was revealed, I thought it would be 500, but the teraflop number, and I know teraflops aren't the only thing that matter, but the teraflop and the power of the system is a little less than I actually personally thought it would be before we got those numbers, even though it still sounds like it's going to be really good, especially when you factor in that it has a better SSD than Microsoft. But because of that, I think it's going to be a little lower. Originally, before that, I thought 500, but Now, the more I think about it, I'm thinking that they're going to go kind of in the middle and go 450. I think 400 would be a little too low. People talk about 400 being a good amount, but the thing you have to remember is with inflation and stuff is that I don't think you can keep consoles like the same price or whatever forever. And back when PlayStation 3 came out and it had its rough start, yeah, it was 600 and 500 if you got the smaller gigabyte or whatever, but and that was an issue, but I think there was other issues. I don't think it was just that affected the sales. I think it was also the fact that the economy wasn't good then, although we're kind of like that now. But also, I think it was the fact that the system had a lot of issues with multi-platform games at first, and the fact that it came out a year after Xbox. So I think there was a lot of factors in Sony besides just the price that gen that hurt PlayStation 3 for a while. So I feel like 450 is a good amount. It's higher than the 400, but I feel like it's still lower than the 5. And there's been talk about Xbox undercutting them, but I just don't see how that can happen because I don't see how Xbox, which is more powerful than PlayStation, can sell for less. I just don't see how a more powerful system can sell for less. If they were like the same power or something, I could then see Microsoft maybe being able to do that. But I just feel like to sell Xbox say for 400 and PlayStation for 450 or 500 or whatever, I feel like Xbox would simply be taking too big of a loss. So I'm gonna say that PlayStation is 450. I think the Xbox Series X will be 500 or 550. I'm probably gonna say five. I'm leaning more towards 500, but we'll see. Last thing too is, let's talk about backwards compatibility. There's been a lot of confusion on that, so I feel like that would be good for Sony to address that. But I also feel like they might also wait till August because I feel like August what they might do is show the system, announce the price, go more into detail on backwards compatibility, and maybe give examples on that in terms of what games will maybe get patched day one or what won't or whatever, and also maybe give examples in terms of the different loading times that PlayStation 4 games will get on PlayStation 5. So I feel like August is more when you're going to get that news about more the hardware side of things, as well as how the UI works on the system and stuff. I feel like the reveal we're getting now is going to be more strictly on games, especially from what Sony has said. And I feel like August could be more the hardware, software, or the hardware and how the system works and everything. But yeah, that's basically my predictions. So thanks for watching and subscribe if you found this video interesting. I think for the next video, I'm going to do more of a video of Nintendo and my favorite games for the Switch, and then I may later do a video on PlayStation and some of my favorite PlayStation 4 games. I may actually wait until after Ghost of Tsushima comes out to do that one too, because I kind of feel like that could kind of change my order in terms of exclusives and how to rank them and stuff. I'm not really sure. And but anyway, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, subscribe if you like this video and comment below, and I'll see you later. Thank you.